Palm trees sliding by, bold blasts of tropical color climbing walls and snaking up tree trunks. The flat morning light was unforgiving, leaving only the stingiest triangles of shade. In Florida City, the turnpike emptied onto US 1, then onto the two-lane 18-mile ribbon of asphalt that locals called the Stretch. It was here that the real world began to dissolve, while paradise crooked its finger just ahead. Even on the crappiest day, the stretch could cause heart rates to slow, stress levels to drop, and brain synapses to fire less frantically. But today, Will's mind flitted at random as Tommy drove sedately, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Despite the open windows, the silence between them hung hot and heavy, stuffed with things that had never been forgiven, and that Will sincerely hoped would never be discussed. A chain-link fence was all that held back the scrub and brush as they skirted the Everglades and crossed over the Monroe County line. Will stole the occasional surreptitious glance at his son, who had inherited his size and coloring, and who looked so much like the younger brother he'd been named for that it hurt to look at him. He thought about the boy's mother, who'd been a casualty of the life they'd lived too. So many people gone for no good reason. From the top of the Jewfish Creek Bridge, sun glinted off the impossibly turquoise water that flanked them, and a warm salt breeze tinged the air and riffled Will's hair. In Key Largo, scuba and bait and tackle shops began to fly by. A strip mall sign promising Pilates and Paradise caught his eye. The silence spooled out. Will's eyelids grew heavy. He was close to nodding off when Tommy said, "I talked to the bank. Then I brought in a realtor to look at Mermaid Point." Will's eyes blinked open. This was what happened when you gave your only blood relative power of attorney in case of emergency, never thinking that you might be thrashing it out in rehab when they decided to declare one. He'd bought the tea-table-shaped key on a whim back in the early 80s, when Key West had ceased being a place to hide out, kick back, and chill, when cruise ships began to arrive and depart daily, and crowds longing to be wild and eccentric planted a flag and declared Key West their capital of crazy. Everyone he cared about had fled. Will had only made it 79 mile markers up US 1. "I'm not interested in selling Mermaid Point." Not his island, not ever. They were passing through Tavernier. Mariners' Hospital and McDonald's flashed by, and then they were crossing Tavernier Creek. Soon they'd be on Upper Matacumbe, the third of Isla Mirada's 4 keys. Almost home. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't sell the island without doing something about the house and the outbuildings, his son said. Not in the condition they're in. It was Will's turn to grunt. When he'd bought Mermaid Point, it had been one of many homes Will owned. Now it was all he had left. All he wanted to do when he got there was stretch out in a chaise by the pool and zone the hell out, which wouldn't be anywhere near as easy without a drink or a joint in his hand. At the moment, he was trying not to think about how he was going to live the next week, let alone the rest of his life, without numbing up. He wasn't sure his pool, or even the Atlantic Ocean, which his pool overlooked, was big enough to swim the number of laps it would take. He didn't know if there were enough laps in the world to make the need to detach go away. The thing is, if the house and grounds could be renovated, it would make a great place for an island vacation or a corporate retreat, and you could keep the rooms rented out all the time. I mean, you're still a name. People would pay a fortune to come stay in the property owned and operated by William the Wild. The tone was derisive, as if he were relating something that he didn't understand but he knew to be true. You could make a living as the genial host of the rock and roll bed and breakfast, or I don't know, maybe we should just call it the Wild House. You're joking. Will kept his voice even. He wasn't even home yet. He was not going to get worked up. Hadn't he just spent a month trying to learn how to stay calm and in control? And it's not like you'd ever get approval for a bed and breakfast. There's an ordinance against them, and a moratorium on building. Tommy shook his head dismissively. That's just semantics and small-town politics, and I never joke about money. Of course he didn't. The kid was a damned investment banker with a calculator for a brain.